got the vibes. You got the vibes. I got the vibes. I have a story for you. And I'd heard about this story, but now that you're in Australia and I'm a little bit homesick, so instead of pining for that Aussie sun/rain, I dug deep.
Yes.
Actually, not that deep. But I found a case I think you're going to find insane.
Are we talking a true crime case?
It's true crime.
Are we on true crime
time?
Oh, it's true crime time.
So, I'm pulling you out of New South Wales.
Okay.
And I'm taking you up to Queensland. Not to Brisbane, Vegas.
No?
Not going there.
Okay.
No. We're going to Queensland in 1997. And look, Australians probably know this case, but it didn't really get a lot of traction overseas.
Mm-hmm.
It's the case of Marion Barter.
Oh.
So before we get into it, I just want to say that in the late 60s, Marion Barter was married to Johnny Warren.
Who's that?
Well, anyone of a certain age living in Australia and who was into sport will know he was Australia's top soccer player and he was the captain of the Socceroos.
Okay.
And he was really influential in getting young people into soccer, which is why I knew about him.
AKA football.
Yeah, football. But, Socceroos. You can't say football-roos. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
But, it was a quick marriage. They divorced 2 years later in 1969.
Okay.
And then Marion had 2 more husbands, divorced both of them. According to reports, she was a bit of a dreamer. And was always on her quest for, to find her one true love. So I just want you to put a pin in that because this will come into play. Back to 1997, Marion Barter, who was 51 at the time, she started doing out-of-character things. 2 years earlier, she'd bought a house for 180,000 Australian dollars.
That sounds like a lot back then, is it?
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
because 180,000 bucks back in the late 90s, you could get a fucking mansion for that. So I don't know what kind of house she bought.
What did she do for a living?
Well, she was a kindergarten teacher at the Southport School. And by all accounts, she was an excellent teacher. The kids loved her. The parents loved her. She was really inspiring to the point where in 1996, a year before our 1997 timeline, she was awarded the Queensland Teaching Excellence Award.
Wow.
And she was given that award by Aussie publishing legend Ita Buttrose. But on the 25th of April in 1997, out of nowhere, Marion sold her house for a loss in a quick sale.
Oh, no.
And she sold it for $165,000, which is 15 grand less than she paid. And 15 grand in 1997.
That's a lot.
It's a fuckload of money. That's probably, between 80 and 100,000.
Wow.
And just for nothing. So she took a hit on that house, but she told her family, I've had enough. I just want some time out. And she planned to go traveling overseas for a year. And that's why she told her family she was selling the house. And honestly, why she just didn't rent that fucker out and go traveling with the rent money, who knows? But I want you to keep that in mind.
I am pinning that.
Pin, pin, pin. Then on 20th of June in 1997, Marion resigned from her teaching job.
That she was so good at.
Yep. And she resigned on a Tuesday. She was like, I'm done on the Friday. She gave 4 days' notice. Yep. And she was like, I'm going overseas. I'm going to go to England and be a teacher. But she said, I'm going for a year. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to renew her teacher's certification for the next school year. Okay. Implying that she was going to be coming back to Australia after her year away.
Yeah.
Then she gives her daughter Sally Layden, her name is, her car, some furniture, which is all on loan until she's back. And she puts the rest of her stuff into storage. Then, on June 23rd in 1997, Marion's friend Leslie drives Marion to the Southport bus station so she can hop on a bus to Brizzy Airport. And she's off. Marion is on her way to the UK via Tokyo for trip of a lifetime.
That sounds like Something I once did.
Well, I get it. But in context, she's 51.
Yeah.
She's not 21.
Yeah.
And she's got kids and a job and, a house and a mortgage.
Yeah, and a life.
She's ditched it all.
Yeah.
And it's hasty. Now, the thing is that there was an odd incident before Marion left that freaked her daughter Sally out. And it happened in March before Marion had put her house on the market and quit her job. And it happened one night when Sally had gone to the local Macca's, which was located in a petrol station.
Yeah.
She pulled in, and from where she was parked, she could see the pumps. It was like the car park for Macca's. This is Sally, the daughter.
Yeah.
And she could see the petrol pumps. She could see the entrance to the Macca's when she got out of the car. And when she looked over, she saw her mum, Marion, at one of the petrol pumps, about to put petrol in her car. But when Marion looked up and saw her daughter, Sally, looking right at her,
yes.
she froze. She froze.
What?
And more than that, she put that fucking petrol pump down, got in the car, reversed out of the petrol station the wrong way, and sped off. Really fucking weird.
Yes.
Thing is, Sally says her mum was not alone in the car.
I wondered.
She says there was a man in the front seat.
Ah.
But because of the petrol station lights, she reflecting off the windshield, she couldn't see him. But she said there was definitely someone in the car with her mum.
Up to some hanky-panky, Marion. Sprung.
Well, good on her,
Yes. But why can't she tell her daughter? She's already been married 3 times. What's wrong with having another beau?
Who knows? People do strange things, don't they?
Yeah.
But let's fast forward to the day Marion left Australia to go on her trip. Because on her passenger card, which everyone used to have to fill out when entering or leaving Australia, and I don't know if they still do that. Did you have to do that when you went in?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So they give you this piece of paper, you have to fill it in.
And it's very long-winded. You have to say all sorts of things like where you're going, what's the address. You can't fit it all in. And what's your occupation? Oh,
Yeah, all that stuff.
who cares?
Well, this is why you should care,
Okay.
because on her passenger card, she wrote that her final destination was the UK, that she was divorced, and that she intended to reside permanently, not in the UK, but in Luxembourg.
Oh.
And what's bizarre is that Marion had not said anything to her family about Luxembourg, ever.
Oh.
In fact, at that time, all they knew was that she was going away on a holiday for a year and then was coming home. But another thing the family had absolutely no fucking clue about was the fact that on that passenger card, it was signed not Marion Barter, but Florabella Natalia Marion Remakel.
Wow. Who?
Yeah, and how many fucking names do you want to have? Turns out Marion had legally changed her name by deed poll 1 month before leaving Australia.
Oh, my God.
But back in 1997, no one knew this information. Not her family, not the police, no one. And it was decades before authorities put 2 and 2 together and realised that Marion Barter was now Florabella Remakel. But at the beginning of Marion's trip, the family didn't really have any cause for alarm because she was sending postcards to her kids. She was calling all the time. She was telling the family she was having a great old time. And in those days, with no mobiles, you had to rely on the person who was away to call.
Yeah.
Or you had to have a very detailed itinerary that they shared with you to understand where they were, right?
Yep.
So the only thing the family had to go on were the phone calls and the postcards that she was sending.
There's no pings. There's no mobile phone masts pinging.
No, and she's not sending texts. She's not on social media. It didn't exist.
No.
So the first postcard that Sally received was sent on the 30th of June from Tunbridge Wells.
Oh, I know it well.
Kent.
Yes. The Garden of England.
Then in July, Sally gets 2 more postcards from Marion from Sussex and London. An elderly relative got a postcard that had been postmarked from Marion from Brighton. So she's not going far.